Welcome back to another edition of the Video Game Music Review. J77 here, and this review will be primary towards the music more so than the game, but it is a game that really much made history for a lot of reasons. One, it was the first extremely gory game that ever was put in arcade mode. If you played it, you know what I'm talking about. During the time when arcades were basically fading out, this was the last great arcade game before arcades became pretty much obsolete in most towns. Right now there's only 2 arcades left in New York City alone. In the 5 boroughs, only 2 exist. One in Coney Island, and there's one in Staten Island, and those are just barely hanging on. But during the time, arcades was a big thing where stores had them, and you couldn't go into a corner store and not have one arcade cabinet there, and that's how big it was. It was pretty much the source of entertainment, the source of recreation. For $1 you get to play it. It went up to 50 cents, some 75, but it was still one of the big trends that everybody has. $1 will get you a game if you're good enough to play it through. One of the games that actually have made big waves was Mortal Kombat. And when I'm sitting there, at first I'm watching these people line up for this game, which is something I haven't seen in a long time. People were talking about this game, people challenging each other. I didn't know what was the big deal. It really, I just saw it as a typical fighting game that anybody can come in and fight, anybody can come in and challenge. So I didn't really understand why this game was getting so much attention. And then I saw the fatalities, and then my eyes widened. And then I was wondering, oh my god, what the hell did I just saw? This is what really separated Mortal Kombat from other fighting games. Is the brutality of the final scene. That fatality, those death scenes, pretty much separated from all the other fighting games, including Street Fighter. Was at the time was a mega hit, both in arcade and in home consoles. And this is a game that pretty much sparked huge concerns for parents and both politicians, because let's be honest, Mortal Kombat was not the only controversial game back then, but it was really the one that really was an eye popper. Games did had warning. Arcade games, some of them, not all of them, had warnings. They said this is too graphic for young players, but it was never enforced. You can still play it in a game that was not meant for young eyes. When Mortal Kombat came out, that completely woke up everybody that, hey, we need to do something. And because of that, it was pretty much partly responsible for what we have is the video game rating system now. Surprisingly, I was kind of stunned they didn't have it earlier, but then again, game was not as sophisticated as they are right now. Now games tell stories. Now games curses. It's no longer a children's production, even though as many people continue to think that only kids play these games. Not anymore. Now adults are playing it just as much, if not more, than the children are back then. But Mortal Kombat was the leading force. But besides being a very violent game, it was a very good game, and a game that not only sparked a couple of sequels, but it also sparked a other genre in that category, that is music. The Mortal Kombat the Album was released not too far when they started announcing that the NES and Sega Genesis was going to have their own version on both of these consoles, and it was a very big thing between that. Even though they were the same pretty much game, they had different similarities. One had blood, one didn't have blood unless you put a code in, and it really must had a war between the two. But also, besides that, Mortal Kombat was still winning regardless. They also sparked a soundtrack, their own personal album. When I first heard about this, I was like, wait, they made a soundtrack? I went to the late Nobody Beats the Wiz, a former electronics store, got the soundtrack, and at first I'm looking at it, I'm holding it. It was a cassette player soundtrack. Yeah, we still had cassettes back in the 90s, and I was like, I'm not too sure if I made the right choice, because I remember playing the game, I remember having a sound for the game, but is it memorable? And then I played the soundtrack, and the first thing I think is forever being cemented as the Mortal Kombat theme, because it's actually in this soundtrack, the other one called Mortal Kombat, and the movies versions of Mortal Kombat, and it's been that staple, that Mortal Kombat theme where the guy's screaming Mortal Kombat, and you get to have a club music. Most of the soundtrack throughout this whole entire music is clubbing. You really can put this song on in any club and people will dance to it. That's how much of a club music that is. Every last album, I think there's one that really doesn't play into that club atmosphere, but make no mistake about it, from Sub-Zero to the Mortal Kombat theme, to Raven, you're going to actually dance to this music, and that's what makes it so interesting, because this album really doesn't connect with the gameplay. It don't. And I think that was actually a blessing in disguise, because that was a major concern of mine when I bought the soundtrack. I said, really, I don't think that the game itself holds no themes, but the soundtrack was awesome. I really did like it, and when my tape broke and I found out they actually discontinued, I was mad, man. I was very upset, because I don't know if it was because of lack of sales or because it was a limited edition, but they did stop it. They brought it back. I think that because the movie was coming out, they brought it back, and I was just like, yes, I gotta go get it. And I was very, very happy. And I actually started collecting Mortal Kombat soundtracks since then, because I actually did enjoy that music. I actually did enjoy dancing to that music, because it's pretty much dance music. Again, you put that in a club, you're dancing to it, because it's that good. It's that energy-driven music that really works. And it's kind of surprising that the Power at Beach holds this type of music to represent the game, and even more so the movies, because the movies, they have the same formula. If you buy the movie version, both the regular Mortal Kombat soundtrack and Annihilation, you find that they're pretty much the same, and they kept the main theme, and that's forever been linked to the Mortal Kombat universe, that theme, because that theme came from the video game soundtrack, and it just moved over to the movie soundtrack, which I don't think too many people realize that there was a game soundtrack before there was a movie soundtrack to it. The only time they didn't use it was from Mortal Kombat, and that's because I don't think people I don't know if that's actually an extension towards the movie version or an extension towards the video game version, but it didn't matter. The sound still remained the same. I really do enjoy it. I hope if you guys find it, because I know it's hard to find. I know YouTube has a ton of Mortal Kombat themes out there, so I'm pretty sure that you can actually find your favorite ones if you know how to type. But the Mortal Kombat theme is always one of my favorite ones, the original, leading up to Annihilation. I always did enjoy it, and I also enjoyed Raven's Revenge. It was actually one of those songs that get you pumped up. You can actually play that soundtrack on a racing car game, and it actually fits perfectly well with any racing car game you get. It's really, really good. So my feeling on Mortal Kombat the soundtrack, I recommend it for a lot of people who love dancing and loves pump energy music that will get them ready and pumped up for whatever game or whatever club they're prepared to go to. That's the best way I can describe it, guys. But in any case, it's a good soundtrack. It's very, very good. It's very, very good music, and I was glad I bought it. I took a risk because I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't. I took it out and say, well, I like movie soundtracks, I might as well buy this one. I like the game. Maybe it will surprise me, and it did surprise me. It really did. But if you have listened to the soundtrack, the Mortal Kombat the Album, what's your feeling on it? Did you like it like I did, or did you didn't like it, or did you like it for different reasons? Let me know in the comment section below. Until then, J77 signing off.